The Silent Watchers. Captain Ilara Voss stood at the viewport of the UES Argonaut, her eyes fixed on the strange metallic structure floating silently against the backdrop of stars. The object shouldn't have been there. Nothing should be this far out in the Kuiper Belt except ice, dust, and the occasional dwarf planet. Yet there it was, a gleaming construct of unknown origin, its surface inscribed with patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. Lieutenant Commander Ramirez looked up from his console. "Still no response to our hails, Captain. Energy readings are minimal but consistent with some kind of standby mode. Whatever it is, it's not dead, just quiet." Ilara nodded, brushing a strand of auburn hair from her face. The Argonaut was humanity's most advanced deep space vessel, equipped with the experimental Shaw Fujikoa drive that had, for the first time, allowed humans to reach the outer edges of their solar system in weeks rather than years. This mission was supposed to be a simple shakedown cruise, map the outer boundaries, test the new propulsion system, and return to Earth. Finding alien technology had definitely not been on the itinerary. "Dr. Okafor, any theories?" Ilara turned to the ship's science officer. The tall Nigerian woman frowned at her tablet. "It appears to be some form of automated monitoring station. The architecture is unlike anything in our databases, but the function seems clear enough. It's watching us, Captain. And judging by the dust patterns on its surface, it's been doing so for a very long time." A chill ran down Ilara's spine. "You mean it's been spying on Earth?" "That would be my assessment, yes," Dr. Okafor replied. "And given its position and the direction of its primary sensors, I'd say it's been doing so since before we developed spaceflight." The bridge fell silent as the implication sank in. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe, sending out radio signals and telescopic searches. All the while, someone, or something, had been silently observing them. "Captain, I'm detecting a power surge from the structure," Ramirez called out suddenly. "It's activating." "Shields up, defensive positions," Ilara ordered, falling back on her military training even as her scientific curiosity burned to know more. The alien structure began to pulse with blue light, a rhythmic beating that sent waves of energy cascading across its surface. Then, without warning, it released a concentrated beam of energy, not at the Argonaut, but into deep space. "It's sending a signal," Dr. Okafor said, her fingers flying across her tablet. "Tight beam transmission, directed toward the Canes Venatici constellation." "How long would it take that signal to reach its destination?" Ilara asked. "At light speed, approximately 25 million years," Ramirez replied. Dr. Okafor shook her head. "This isn't traveling at light speed. The signal is riding some kind of subspace carrier wave. If my readings are correct, it will reach its destination in minutes." Ilara felt the weight of command press down on her shoulders. "We need to report this to Earth Command immediately. Whatever that thing is sending, I doubt it's a friendly greeting." "Captain," the navigation officer called out, his voice tight with tension. "Multiple objects materializing at 3 million kilometers and closing fast." The viewport's display shifted, zooming out to show a dozen sleek vessels emerging from what appeared to be rifts in the very fabric of space. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, curved hulls gleaming like polished obsidian, pulsing with the same blue energy as the monitoring station. "First contact scenario," Ilara said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Open all communication channels. Prepare first contact package for transmission." But before they could broadcast their carefully prepared messages of peace and friendship, the lead alien vessel fired. A blue pulse struck the Argonaut, bypassing its shields completely. The ship shuddered, and every electronic system flickered simultaneously. "What just hit us?" Ilara demanded. "Some kind of targeted electromagnetic pulse," Dr. Okafor replied, her face illuminated by the emergency lighting that had kicked in. "But more sophisticated than anything we've ever developed. Main systems are rebooting, but the Shaw Fujikoa drive is offline. A holographic projection suddenly appeared on the bridge, a tall, slender figure with silvery skin and 4 arms. Its face had no features except for 3 vertical slits where eyes should be. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Arbiter Zax Kalar of the Galactic Conclave. Your unauthorized technological advancement has been noted and deemed in violation of Conclave Directive 773. Cease all faster-than-light research and surrender your prototype vessels immediately." Ilara stepped forward, keeping her hands visible. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the United Earth ship Argonaut. We were unaware of any galactic directives or restrictions. We are peaceful explorers and would welcome dialogue with your conclave." The alien made a sound like wind through crystalline chimes, a laugh, perhaps, or a scoff. "Ignorance does not constitute exemption. The monitoring outpost you discovered has been observing your species for 12,000 years. Your kind has been classified as aggressive, unpredictable, and potentially destabilizing to galactic order. You've been watching us without our knowledge or consent," Ilara replied, indignation rising in her chest. "You've made judgments about our entire species without ever speaking to us. Is that your idea of justice? Justice is irrelevant. Order is paramount," Zaxkaler stated flatly. "The Conclave has existed for millions of your years. We have shepherded the evolution of 10,000 civilizations. Those who comply with our directives are eventually granted limited membership. Those who resist are contained or eliminated." Ilara felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "And which fate have you chosen for humanity?" "That depends on your compliance. Surrender all faster-than-light technology. Submit to Conclave oversight of your scientific advancement, and accept population control measures. In return, you will be permitted to continue your existence within your solar system." Dr. Okafor stepped beside Ilara, her eyes burning with quiet fury. "Population control measures. You're talking about limiting our growth, our potential, our very future. The alternative is extinction," Zaxkaler stated without emotion. "You have 30 of your Earth days to comply. A containment fleet will arrive at that time to either implement oversight protocols or sterilize your world." The hologram flickered and disappeared. The bridge erupted in voices of outrage and fear, but Ilara raised her hand for silence. Status of the Shaw Fujikoa drive. Ramirez checked his console. "Coming back online, Captain. 15 minutes to full power." And the alien vessels, maintaining distance. They seemed content to watch us for now. Ilara's mind raced. If she tried to engage the aliens, the Argonaut would be hopelessly outmatched. If she surrendered, she would be condemning humanity to eternal servitude. But if she could get back to Earth with this information, perhaps humanity would have a chance to prepare. "Plot a return course to Earth," she ordered. "Maximum speed once the drive is operational. We need to warn the homeworld." "Captain," Dr. Okafor said quietly, "even at maximum speed, we'll barely reach Earth before the 30-day deadline. And what can we possibly do against a civilization millions of years more advanced than our own?" Ilara met her gaze, determination hardening her features. "I don't know yet, but humanity didn't climb out of the African savanna, survive ice ages, pandemics, and our own self-destructive tendencies just to be cattle for some cosmic bureaucracy. We'll find a way. We always do." As the Argonaut systems came back online, the alien vessels made no move to stop them. Perhaps they were confident in their superiority, or perhaps they wanted the humans to deliver their ultimatum to Earth. Either way, Ilara wasn't going to waste the opportunity. "Shaw Fujikoa drive at full power," Ramirez reported. "Execute jump," Ilara commanded. The stars outside the viewport blurred as the Argonaut tore through the fabric of space-time, leaving the alien vessels behind. But Ilara knew they wouldn't be left behind for long. The countdown to humanity's greatest challenge had begun. 15 days later, the leaders of Earth's United Nations gathered in the Emergency Council chamber beneath Geneva. The room was silent as Captain Voss concluded her briefing. The holographic images of the alien vessels and the Arbiter Zaxkalar floating above the central table. So that's it. General Zhao of the Pan-Asian Coalition finally said, "Submit or die," after watching us for thousands of years without so much as a hello. That's their ultimatum, Ilara confirmed. We have 15 days remaining before their containment fleet arrives. And we're supposed to believe they have the power to sterilize an entire planet, asked President Okonkwo of the African Union. Dr. Ibrahim Okafor, Amara's father and Earth's foremost physicist, stepped forward. Based on the energy readings from just their scout vessels, yes, their technology is centuries beyond our own. Conventional military resistance would be futile. The room erupted in arguments and counter-arguments. Some advocated immediate compliance to save lives. Others insisted that humanity should fight even against impossible odds. A few suggested trying to negotiate better terms. Through it all, one man remained silent, his fingers steepled in front of his face, his eyes closed in concentration. Dr. Kaido Nakamura was not a politician or a military leader. The elderly Japanese scientist headed Earth's Quantum Physics Institute and had been responsible for many of the theoretical breakthroughs that made the Shaw Fujikawa drive possible. Finally, he opened his eyes and raised his hand. The room gradually fell silent. "The conclave has made a critical error," Dr. Nakamura said, his voice soft but clear. "They have judged us by their standards and found us wanting. But in doing so, they have revealed something important about themselves." "And what's that?" General Zhao asked skeptically. "They fear us," Nakamura replied simply. "Not for what we are, but for what we might become. They have based their entire civilization on order, control, predictability. But humans are none of those things. We are chaotic, adaptive, innovative. Where they see a straight line of progress, we bounce like a pinball, making connections and leaps of logic that defy conventional patterns." "That's all very philosophical, Doctor," President Okonkwo said, "but it doesn't solve our immediate problem." "On the contrary," Nakamura smiled faintly, "it suggests a solution. The Conclave believes they understand us after watching us for thousands of years. But I suspect there is one thing about humans they have never truly grasped." "And what's that?" Ilara asked. Dr. Nakamura's smile widened. "When cornered, we don't follow the rules. We flip the table. The last line of defense." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of frantic activity. Every nation on Earth contributed resources and personnel to what had been dubbed Operation Firewall. Factories operated around the clock, conventional militaries mobilized, and civilian scientists worked alongside military engineers to implement Dr. Nakamura's desperate plan. Ilara found herself in the middle of it all, coordinating between the scientific teams and the hastily assembled Space Defense Force. The Argonaut had been retrofitted with new weapons systems based on reverse-engineered technology from the monitoring station, but everyone knew it would hardly make a difference against the coming armada. "We've confirmed multiple spatial distortions forming at the edge of the solar system," Admiral Chen reported during the final briefing. "The containment fleet has arrived, 3 days early." "Of course they did," Ilara muttered. "They want to catch us off guard." General Zhao pointed to the holographic display showing the positions of Earth's defensive fleet. "We have 127 vessels equipped with prototype shields and weapons, against an estimated 500 conclave ships, each technologically superior. Even with Dr. Nakamura's modifications, we're outnumbered and outgunned. The defensive fleet isn't meant to win," Dr. Nakamura reminded them gently, "just to buy time." Ilara nodded, her face grim. "How's the firewall progressing?" Dr. Okafor Sr. checked his tablet. 87% complete. "We need another 6 hours to finalize the quantum matrix." "We may not have 6 hours," Admiral Chen warned. "The Conclave fleet is accelerating toward Earth. Estimated arrival in 4 hours. President Okonkwo turned to Dr. Nakamura. "Will a partially complete firewall function?" The elderly scientist hesitated. It would be unstable. The effect might last minutes instead of hours. But yes, it could work. Then we proceed as planned, Okonkwo decided. Captain Voss, you'll lead the diplomatic vessel to meet the Arbiter. Your job is to stall as long as possible. Ilara nodded, though her stomach churned at the thought of facing Zaxkaler again. Understood, Madam President. 3 hours later, Ilara stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, watching as the Conclave Armada came into view. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. At the center floated a vessel easily 10 times the size of the others. The command ship, presumably. Open a channel, Ilara ordered. The view screen flickered, and Arbiter Zaxkaler appeared. The alien seemed unsurprised to see her. Captain Voss, you have returned to face judgment. Has humanity prepared its surrender? Ilara kept her expression neutral. We wish to discuss terms, Arbiter. Surely there's room for negotiation between our civilizations. There is no negotiation, Zaxkaler replied. Only compliance or consequence. Our scans indicate your species has continued developing prohibited technologies, even after our warning. This is most disappointing. We were preparing a proposal for limited technological development under Conclave supervision. Ilara improvised. If you would allow a delegation to present our case. Your deception is transparent, Captain, the Arbiter interrupted. Our sensors detect unusual quantum activity across your planet's surface. You are not preparing for submission. You are preparing resistance. Ilara felt her heart sink. Then perhaps you should hear our true answer, Arbiter. Humanity rejects your ultimatum. We will not surrender our sovereignty or our future to entities who judge without understanding and condemn without dialogue. Zaxkaler's vertical eye slits narrowed. Then you have chosen extinction. A regrettable but predictable outcome for your species. The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, the Conclave ships began to move, spreading out to surround Earth in a 3-dimensional grid pattern. Their positioning for a synchronized attack, Ilara realized. All vessels, defensive formation Delta. Protect the firewall nodes at all costs. Earth's ships moved to intercept, but the battle was hopelessly one-sided from the start. Conclave weapons tore through the improved shields, vaporizing vessels with surgical precision. For every alien ship disabled by Earth's experimental weapons, 10 human vessels were lost. On Earth's surface, civilians huddled in shelters, watching the battle unfold on emergency broadcasts. The sky blazed with the light of dying ships, most of them human. The Conclave methodically destroyed Earth's orbital defenses, communication satellites, and space stations. Then, as the last human capital ship exploded in a burst of light, the alien vessels formed a perfect sphere around the planet. Firewall status, Ilara demanded, her voice hoarse from shouting orders. The Olive Branch had somehow survived, though its shields were failing and half the bridge crew lay dead or wounded at their stations. 96%, came Dr. Okafer's reply over the crackling comm system. 1 more minute, Captain. But they didn't have a minute. The Conclave ships began to glow with blue energy, the same deadly power that had disabled the Argonaut weeks earlier, but magnified hundreds of times. They're powering weapons, Ilara shouted. All remaining vessels, evasive maneuvers. Zaxkaler's voice echoed across all frequencies. Let this be a lesson to all who would defy the Conclave's order. The alien ships fired simultaneously, their energy beams converging as they streaked toward Earth. Ilara watched in horror, certain she was witnessing the end of her civilization, her species, her home. But something unexpected happened. As the deadly energy reached Earth's atmosphere, it encountered an invisible barrier. The beams scattered, fractured, and then rebounded along the same trajectories they had come. Before the Conclave ships could react, they were struck by their own weapons. Dozens of alien vessels exploded instantly. Others spun out of control, their systems overloaded. The perfectly coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. "What is happening?" Zaxkaler's voice demanded over the comm. "This is impossible." Dr. Nakamura's face appeared on Ilara's view screen, his eyes bright with fierce triumph. "The firewall is active, Captain. We've inverted their quantum signatures and created a phase-locked reflective barrier. Their own energy is being turned against them." The Conclave command ship managed to avoid the worst of the reflected attack, but as Ilara watched, a rippling distortion spread across space, emanating from Earth itself. The quantum firewall wasn't just reflecting energy. It was actively propagating outward, carrying with it a wave of disruption that the Conclave ships seemed unable to resist. "Their systems are failing," Dr. Okafor reported jubilantly. "The quantum inversion is cascading through their technology, corrupting their control systems." Ilara opened a channel to the command ship. "Arbiter Zaxkaler, perhaps now you're ready to discuss terms." The alien's image flickered and distorted, but his voice came through clearly enough. "What have you done? This technology should be beyond your capabilities." "You watched us for thousands of years," Ilara replied, "but you never really saw us. Humans don't develop in straight lines. We make leaps. When Dr. Nakamura realized your technology operated on principles of quantum coherence, he developed a way to disrupt that coherence, to turn your greatest strength into your greatest vulnerability." "Impossible," Zaxkaler insisted. "No emerging species has ever." "That's the point, Arbiter," Ilara interrupted. "You've been so focused on maintaining your order that you've stopped evolving. While you were watching us, judging us, we were learning, adapting, innovating, not because someone told us we could, but because no one told us we couldn't." The quantum disruption continued to spread, disabling more Conclave ships. Those that could still maneuver were retreating, opening spatial rifts to escape. "You have made a grave error," Zaxkaler warned. "The Conclave will not forget this defiance." "Good," Ilara replied, "because neither will humanity. Here are our terms. The Earth and its solar system are sovereign territory. No monitoring stations, no interference. In return, we won't share our quantum disruption technology with other emerging species you've been oppressing." Silence stretched between them for long moments. Finally, the Arbiter spoke, its voice carrying an emotion Ilara had not heard before: uncertainty. "The Conclave must deliberate on your proposal. Deliberate quickly," Ilara advised. "Our firewall has mapped the quantum signatures of your homeworlds based on the data streams from your ships. We can extend its effect across the galaxy if necessary." It was a bluff. The firewall was already beginning to destabilize. But Zaxkaler couldn't know that. "A temporary cessation of hostilities is acceptable," the Arbiter conceded. "We will withdraw to discuss your terms." As the surviving Conclave ships retreated, cheers erupted across Earth's communication channels. Humanity had stood against extinction and prevailed, not through superior firepower, but through the very unpredictability and innovative thinking that the Conclave had feared. 1 month later, representatives from Earth met with a delegation from the Galactic Conclave on neutral ground, a terraformed asteroid positioned halfway between Earth and the former location of the monitoring station. The station itself had been dismantled by human ships immediately after the battle. The resulting treaty recognized Earth's independence and removed all restrictions on human technological development. In exchange, humanity agreed to non-aggression and established formal diplomatic relations with the wider galactic community. As Ilara signed the document alongside a subdued Zaxkaler, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. The Conclave had broken the unwritten covenant between civilized beings when they judged humanity without understanding. In response, humanity had broken the Conclave's power and, in doing so, created a new order, one based not on control and stagnation, but on respect and the recognition that true advancement comes from diversity of thought and approach. A historic moment, Zaxkaler observed, its tone still carrying traces of disbelief. "Just the beginning," Ilara replied, looking toward the stars that no longer represented barriers, but gateways. Humanity is coming to the galactic stage, Arbiter. Not as subjects, but as equals. I suggest you prepare accordingly. As the Earth delegation departed, Dr. Nakamura gazed out at the stars, his aged face serene. You know, he said to no one in particular, in all their millennia of watching us, there's one human quality the Conclave never accounted for. What's that? Ilara asked. The elderly scientist smiled. When someone draws a line and tells us not to cross it, that's exactly where we focus all our attention. Ilara laughed, feeling the weight of the past months finally lifting from her shoulders. The Galactic Council had crossed a line by threatening humanity's existence. In response, humanity had erased it altogether, and in doing so, changed the galaxy forever.